changing the air filter on the KPM 200 is actually a pretty straightforward operation. The first thing you want to do is remove the two side covers on either side of the bike. They all use a size 5mm screw, and they just have 3 points they screw into here, over here somewhere, yeah, here and here. So these 3 points is where they screw into. Once you have those off, you can access the screws that are right under here. They look like this. They're 6mm screws, and they just unscrew right here on this side. And the same one exists on the other side here. And then just pop the seat off. So just lift up from the front. There's a little clip on the back that just comes right off. From here you have this snorkel, I suppose, covering part of the air cleaner, and some people remove this snorkel because they don't like it. But what you're going to need to do is sort of wrestle this out of the way and remove. There's 4 screws here, if you can see them, that you need to take off to get it out the rest of the way. So I'm going to go do that and then be right back. The next thing you want to do is somehow just remove, once you get these screws out, you can pretty easily remove this whole snorkel piece, and you can see the plastic underneath is starting to come up with it. You can even just remove the snorkel to make it easy. Then remove this little rubber gaskety thing. You might even just be able to pull it out of the way, kind of depending on how deft you are, but it's probably going to end up coming out regardless. So just trying to pull. This big wiring harness is basically in the way, so it's kind of preventing me from pulling it all the way out. Just making sure I backed out all the screws all the way. Look underneath and see if anything's catching on it. Yeah, some of the screws are catching, but whoop. Once I move this the rest of the way out of here, this should all just come out nicely. Yeah, there we go. Starting to free. This main wiring harness is mostly what you're kind of fighting against. And then this whole piece should come out. You see that this kind of has to come out with it because, oh sorry. You see that this kind of has to come out with it because it's attached at the bottom here. So, you know, do your best in just pulling that out of here. There is a little piece of foam. You can just clean this off, reuse it. Once that's out, you can just literally lift the air filter right out of its little holster. It looks just like this. I'm going to go grab the new one. So this is the new stock air filter I ordered off of one of the Chinese websites. You can see, I don't know if these are part numbers or what, but it's a Lifen.com part. And if you want to just focus in there, those are the part numbers. I don't know if any of those would help, but I looked up KPM 200 air filter and this is what came up, so shouldn't be that hard to replace. There is a little notch on the side, which I think corresponds to the notch on the back side here. Oops. So you'll pretty easily figure out where that goes. This one's also notched a little bit, so you can kind of see how that fits in there. We'll just follow the notch all the way around. So it looks about the same. I don't even know if mine was dirty. One's a little orangey, one's a little red. That doesn't really make a difference. I don't even know if mine was dirty, but it looks a little dirty, so we're just going to toss that. So I'm going to pop the replacement in there. Fits perfectly. I'll just bring this around. You can see just kind of goes right in there. Nice and clean. I'm going to clean the filter element and then we'll reverse this whole procedure. I didn't actually have any foam air filter cleaner, so in a pinch, some warm soapy water will do the trick. Using some dish soap here, some Dawn liquid degreaser. Let that soak for a little while, squeeze it out, get it nice and clean. It's a piece of foam after all. And then I'm going to hit it with this PJ1 foam filter oil. That's specially made just for foam filters, not to destroy them or damage them. And I got that at AutoZone. So now that we've got our oil filter clean, this was all clean with nice dish soap. I'm just going to give it a little spray with this foam filter stuff. Unlike a dirt bike engine, you don't need to completely douse this this filter in here. All this is going to do is just help you catch like the fine dirt particles and things that, you know, from a street rider's perspective, you don't really see a ton of that sort of stuff coming through the air filter. But the manual does call for it, so I'm just going to give it a little spray on each side and just, you know, coat it quite a bit. I don't want it doused. I don't want it completely, you know, engulfed in oil, but I want to have a little bit of oil in there. I just don't want it to get on the paper filter. The paper filter manual does not do a good job explaining this, but the paper filter does not get a ton of oil on it. You don't really want any oil on the paper filter. You just want to get a little bit of oil on here, squeeze out the extra. Just want it to be a little sticky, a little tacky, so that it has some of that oil in there that will catch those fine particles. And that's really all you need to do. You know, squeeze out the excess, rub off the excess. You don't want to get too much of this elsewhere, but, you know, just a little bit of spray on there. Just get it coated, you're good to go. So now with the oil filter kind of coated in that oil, I'm just going to throw it back inside of this. I want to make sure I don't lose those screws. Maybe I'll just do it that way so I don't mess anything up. Just kind of pop it back in there, and we're going to slide this right back inside. Just going to push this up into here because I don't want to try to avoid getting any kind of oil on the air filter itself. Okay. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. But once you get it in position, you should be able just to kind of shimmy it to its position that you need to be in. Take that glove off. So don't get oil all over the bike. There we go. Down in there. That should be right about where it needs to be. Now I'm just going to get a screwdriver and screw those down. I like to go opposite sides when I screw down pretty much anything that has multiple screws, just so you get a nice even application of force. You know, don't tighten them down all the way until you get them all pretty well seated and engaged. Then once you have all four there, you just kind of go around and give them that final squeeze to tighten them down. Okay, now I'm going to put the rubber cover kind of back in place here. Some of these cords are on top of it. And then some people do the snorkel delete. It's up to you if you want to do that. I don't know that it conveys a whole lot of additional benefit to having it on or off. If you're going to keep it on, just wipe it down inside. It probably has like a little coating of dust. You don't have to go crazy. This is not, you know, serious high performance machine here. Just going to get rid of the worst of the particles. I'm coating inside of this now that I have a nice clean air filter. And I'm going to pop this back on. Kind of just a press fit. It should fit pretty well. You just wiggle it around to make sure it's sort of all the way engaged And it has a little bit of an angle to it, as you can see here. I'll bring the camera down a little bit. So there's a little bit of a bend right here. It just lines up with the bend of the actual original air box and everything. It has the same kind of bend. So if you want to keep the snorkel on, that's how you put it back. And that's it. We're going to reassemble the seat and be done. The seat has a clip on this side, sort of the back side of the seat, if you will. Has a clip right there that just clips right into the back of the bike. And it should just sit nicely. Just a little plastic clip right here that holds the bolt in place. Nothing too fancy. Just do it. You don't have to really over tighten this bolt either. It has a little spacer built into it, so it doesn't actually squeeze the plastic too hard, probably to avoid breaking it. You know, it doesn't hold this very, very tightly. It just kind of holds it like that. So just doing it hand tight is perfectly acceptable. Grab the other one. And do the same on this side. Just hand tight with a little handle will be just fine. I did use a gun one time to put these in, and that was a mistake because I started to strip this one. So I would avoid that if you can. It really doesn't need to be that tight. You could check them periodically just to make sure they're not, you know, super loose or anything. And that's it. So I put the other side cover on. Now put this cover on. There's a little sort of post right here that just gets pushed right in here. There's rubber grommet. And just kind of snug it in underneath the seat. You're good to go. There's 3 size screws that you should have gotten, and you want to use the smallest screw, the smallest length screw of the 3 to go top here by the tank, because you don't want to push it, you know, push a big screw into your tank and end up damaging your tank. At worst, you probably will scratch it, as I have done before, but I also don't want to put a hole in it or cause any issues. So that's what I use. This one a little bit further down. Again, I would just hand tighten these. Using a gun or something just isn't necessary, and at worst you're going to end up stripping these bolts and causing yourself a headache out of line. To put these on, by the way, I'm using a 5mm hex. All right, that's it. Let's hear how she sounds. Put that in neutral. Should remember that. Beautiful. Burn like a kitten again.